So today we're going to do something called an evaluation education session. We just had two evaluators who came and did an evaluation. Ideally, I would have liked to have the education session before the evaluators would have come here. Maybe they would have got some inspiration. But I think it's a good thing because at least I get to say something today, even though I'm not the general evaluator, because DTM Deepa is the general evaluator. But I can't just go out of the stage without saying what I have to say. So I got an opportunity to even say that now, and I've got a lot of things to say. So let me start off with this. Why do I call it empowering growth through evaluation? Because I believe that when you do an evaluation, you are helping your fellow members to get better at what they were yesterday. So that's as simple as that. In very simple, plain language, this is what. So what is evaluation? It is the process of providing a thoughtful, constructive feedback, and this is to help the members to improve their public speaking skills. Very clear, don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. It's very, very simple. Alright? So what do? You observe, you encourage, and you give actionable recommendations. When you say actionable, I'll come back to you, Toastmaster Sully. You said, I would like your voice to go up and down. What is up and down? Where up and down? Where in her speech would you have liked her to use that voice modulation? That is actionable recommendation. So that is something that you need to be very mindful of. It's very easy to say that I would have loved to see you do this. If you would have loved to see her do that, tell us where would you have loved her to do that. She couldn't be doing it all the time, right? She couldn't be having voice modulations right through the speech. So you need to have that, and you need to be very specific where you want that. The other thing you need to remember is it's not about finding faults. Now that finding fault is patented by me. Okay, so I have the right to do it in India Club, and I will continue doing it as and when I come here, and I will do it to people whom I think are willing to take it. Now I know Dr. Ritu will take it from me, Anju will take it from me, and I know a few of them who would take it from me, and I know some might not be in that position to take it, so I will try and restrict myself from doing that. But having said that, the very simple funda is that you are not here to find faults or flaws in the speaker. You are here to help that speaker to get better. That's the bottom line. There's no other agenda here as an evaluator. Now if you ask me, what is the difference between an evaluator in a contest and an evaluator in a speech, in a club meeting? The one and only difference I can think is, when you're doing an evaluation in a contest, you don't care what happens to that speaker. Is the speaker going to improve? You don't care. Because what is your goal? Your goal is to win that evaluation contest. Doesn't matter if the speaker wins, gets better or gets worse. It's not your problem. You're not worried about that. Your goal when you're doing an evaluation in your club is you want that member to improve. Simple as that. There's no... I mean, we can look at lots of other things that you would do in a contest and you wouldn't do in a club meeting, but this is the basic difference between evaluation in a club and an evaluation in a contest. So basically, when you're not finding faults and you're supporting the member, what are you doing? You're celebrating their success and providing insights on how they can get better. Now, everybody must have heard this breakfast of champions. Why do you think it's called breakfast of champions? Does anybody know actually from where did this word actually come from? Breakfast of champions. Incidentally, there was an ad for a breakfast cereal which had some sportsmen on it, saying that if they eat those breakfasts, they get better, they get inspiration with that breakfast. And that is how they become champions. So that's actually originated from that cereal which was there. All of us, every time we come here and we're Toastmasters of the day and we're calling the evaluators and we say that now we're going to have the people who are going to come here who are the champions of breakfast. So that is where it started. So in Toastmasters, just as a healthy breakfast energizes an athlete to give their best performance, constructive feedback nourishes speakers and leaders so they can achieve their best. So you got to remember one very simple funda. As a evaluator, your job is to make sure that you listen, you give proper feedback, and the speaker goes home saying that, okay, I learned something today. I can get better if I do my speech the next time I am on stage. That's simple as that. Now, if you look at the mission of the club, what does it say? It says we provide a supportive and a positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop leadership and communication and leadership skills resulting in greater self-confidence and personal. Look at the guts of this. Supportive, positive, self-confidence, personal growth. This is all about evaluation. It's summed up in the mission itself. This is what you do. You provide a supportive, you're giving them a positive experience, you're giving them positive feedbacks, you're giving them back their self-confidence and helping them to grow in their personal life. This is the crux of an evaluation. And this is already there in the mission of our team. So how would you take the role and approach it? First, you observe and you give feedback. So what do you do when you're listening to the speaker when he comes on the stage? There are lots of things that you have to do in the background. We'll come to that. But basically what you would do is you're observing what the speaker is doing. So while the speaker is on stage, the evaluator has to forget everything else around that person. Don't think of anything else that's happening in the room. You have to concentrate 100% on what the speaker is doing on the stage. That's your job. Because you've got to remember, the speaker has spent lots of time and energy in preparing that speech. And all he or she deserves is a proper evaluation. And that is the only thing that an evaluator can do. Give them a proper feedback so they go back saying that I have done justice. They feel good about it. So those 3 minutes that you've got, that 5-minute speech, that is their time. So spend that time completely on listening, observing what the speaker is doing. And that is critical to a proper evaluation. You want to remember this, evaluation is an opinion and nothing more. We are not judges, we are not authorities on the subject, we are not. We are only giving our personal opinion. I believe that this is what you could have done. I feel that this is how you could have improved. You cannot generalize the statement and say, this is how you should do it. No, that's not how we do an evaluation. An evaluation is just an opinion and it's nothing more than an evaluation, nothing more than an opinion. You are not a judge, you are not an authority, so do not criticize or say things that might hurt the speaker who is on the stage. Again, extremes, harsh feedback may discourage, while overly, the dilly-dallying that we do sometimes in evaluations, that also is excessive. Sometimes I've seen speeches which everybody felt wasn't up to the mark, but I still see the evaluator coming and saying, it was a brilliant speech, and then they will give 10 different suggestions. For God's sake, if you have 10 suggestions, how can it be a brilliant speech? It's common sense. So be honest. Don't be too honest as well. Sometimes people may not like it, but at least don't sugarcoat it. That's the whole idea of doing the evaluation. And I think for an evaluator, the two things that you will learn becoming an evaluator is you become a better listener and a critical thinker. Because the moment you're sitting down, for me, if I go to a Toastmasters meeting, I'm only thinking about what can I find here that the club can improve the next time that they're done. That's my first goal is that when I come here, I look at the agenda to see if there are any faults in the agenda. But that's because I don't get to do it at home. The men will understand that better than the women here. You can't pick 5 faults at home, so you have to pick the faults wherever you go. That's an exception that we do. But it makes you think. It makes you think critically to understand what is it that I could give a suggestion. When you see a brilliant speech, you're wondering, what am I going to say today now? I mean, everything is so good. I know Ritu was trying to figure out what am I going to say now, because she said so many nice things to say about Nimisha's speech. She finally found something, remembering that, Nimisha was pacing up and down. Said, okay, here's something that I'm going to do. And that is what it does. It helps you think critically. And it's very important for you to think critically, not just in Toastmasters, in every aspect of your life. So, now preparing for the evaluation. Understand the speaker's project objectives and meet beforehand to clarify their goals. This is something that we don't do, but I think it's a good practice to do. There are lots of clubs. In India, I've seen clubs where they actually ask the member before they give the evaluation speech as to what is it you're looking for in terms of feedback. Are you looking at something specific? Do you think that the voice modulation, or are you thinking my body language is not good? So you check with the speaker beforehand in terms of, is there any specific area you would want us to work on? You can review their previous feedbacks. If the speaker is maybe repeating the speech or doing another speech, you can always review the previous feedbacks, and you don't have to give the same comment again that the speaker has already said. And don't look at small things in the speech. Look at things that would really make a difference to the speaker. If the speaker has misspelled the word or mispronounced the word, that is not what we are here for. That could have happened by mistake. So that is something that we don't need to do. We have to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, how will that speaker get better? If they have pronounced a word which is maybe by mistake, the word is a slip of the tongue, they said a word, and if we pick that up and say, this is what you said, we can probably avoid doing that. So that's something you can do. So when you're delivering the evaluation, you have an active observation. You have to understand that if you have not listened carefully, your evaluation cannot be good. Your evaluation will only be good when you have listened to the speech properly. If you've noted on everything and if you know what the objectives are. Very important to understand what the objective of the speech is. I'll give you a small example. The same project that she did on leadership, I have already completed my DTM and I was doing my level 2 and I was doing the same speech on leadership. And I, as usual, went through the pathways. I don't like going through stuff on the internet. So I scrolled through it. It said leadership. So I said, I'm going to talk about leadership. And I went to a club in India and I delivered a speech on leadership. Now there was a kid who probably wasn't even born when I started my journey in Toastmasters. He gave me a feedback and he was brilliant. He said all the nicest things that I could have heard. And I mean, like, my ego was almost sky high. And then at the end he said, I only wish you had read the objectives before you delivered the speech. And I was like, what? You? Me? And there were so many thoughts in my mind. I was like, what on earth did I not do right? So I came back. I was flying back to Dubai. I was sitting in the lounge. I went through the whole project once again and I realized that I should have done this survey. I should have found out what was my style of leadership. And I should have done so many other things that I did. But I took it for granted. Now, if the evaluator had not actually gone through that evaluation entire process, he would not have known what is required. And he would not have pointed that out. And this is why I say, when you are an evaluator, make it a point to go through the entire project, not just that sheet of paper which has got 5 different things that you're supposed to look at. Don't. Read that entire project speech. Only then you will be able to understand what the speaker has gone through to deliver that speech. Very, very important. None of us do it. And that is one reason why I'm still not in favor of the pathways and I love the old CC manual. I'm still in love with it, and if you bring it back, I'll go and do it all over again. Because that was a book. And you would have to go. You had no choice. You would read it. So my suggestion to anyone doing evaluation is, please understand what that project is. Just not that evaluation guide, because it's not giving you a clear picture. If you look at that evaluation guide, you will see that 2 things are repeated again and again. Yeah, it says the objective of the speaker is this, and again it says the same thing all over again. And then it talks about doing evaluation on body language. For an icebreaker speech, for God's sake, he's coming here to stand and just learn to stand on stage. Not talk about his body, not use his vocal variety, not use his body. It's not required. So be very mindful of what you're doing when you're doing the evaluation. Read the objectives, because most of us, at least in India Club, you have the advantage that you know whom you're going to evaluate, you know what speech you're going to evaluate. Ask them for the entire project so that you're able to do justice to the speaker who has spent a lot of time doing what they have done. Again, provide clear, specific examples and actionable recommendations. Very, very clear. Don't just be all over the place. Don't give generalized comments. Be specific. If you liked what they said, say that word and say, this is where I would have loved you to pause. You were talking about that expression that you gave, especially in Toastmasters Deepti's speech when she said she was fumbling and she stopped there. That is what I liked about it. So that is being very specific. You said, okay, this is where you would have liked you to maybe change your voice modulations. Again, you highlight what the speaker did well, 1 or 2 key areas of improvement. Don't go on giving them 5 or 6 recommendations. If you want to give those 5 or 6 recommendations, I suggest do it privately with the speaker. Not while you're on the stage. Because if you're on stage and giving them 5 or 6 points of improvement, you would have crossed 3 minutes in the first place. And 2, you would not have done justice, because the speaker will go back saying that, oh, what did I do? Have I done such a horrible job that my evaluator said this? And this is the feeling that we don't want to leave the speaker with. So be very mindful when you're giving the suggestions as well. So that is why they say you do the sandwich method. So you give them a commendation, then you recommendation, then you come back to commendation, and then you summarize it. So while you're summarizing it, you talk about the good points all over again. So that is why you always keep the feedback balanced, motivating, appropriate to the meeting schedule, being on time. That is something that we would normally want to share. Now you also have to remember that when you are the evaluator, for the members of your club, you're setting an example for how feedback should be given. 9 out of 10 times an evaluator is always the senior member in the club. Not the senior most, does not have to be the senior, but he's already somebody who's gone through that process. So you are setting an example for your club members. There are new members in the club. They are going to remember this is how an evaluation was done. That is the feedback that they're going to take back and say, it is not just for the speaker, it is for the others in the room as well, for them to take the feedback and say, okay, this is how an evaluation should be done. And you also have to remember that you're contributing to that speaker's growth. That's our purpose. Like I said, difference between contest and a speech and a club evaluation is one simple thing. You have a motive in your mind while you're doing the contest. You want to win. In the club, you want your member to improve. There's no other hidden agenda here. There's only one and only one agenda is how can I make the speaker get better at what he or she did. That's your agenda. And you also have to remember that when you're giving feedback, and why do you need to give proper constructive feedback is because when you give that feedback, the speaker knows this is an area where I can improve. If you just generalized and said, please improve, you're like, I'm pointing on back to you again, and this is probably the mistake that you allowed the education session to happen after your evaluation. Maybe if it was done before that, probably you could have avoided this. But like you said, improve on your voice modulation. Voice motivation there. So that's something very specific. Communication and delivery. Now these are, and I think what both of you all did today is brilliant as far as that is concerned. You are always using I said, I felt, this is my opinion. Very, very important. Don't generalize it. Don't say that the club thinks it is like this or we felt it is like this. No. You are here to give your opinion on the speech. So it's your opinion, not mine, not hers, not his. So it's yours. So it's mine. I take ownership and say, this is how I felt. Because the speaker can go back and say, okay, this is how Sunny felt. So what? Maybe it's not. Right? Maybe somebody else said that you were brilliant. So she can go back with that feeling, and that is the reason why you have to always be very specific. And like I said in the beginning, it is just an opinion. It is your opinion. It's nothing more than your opinion. It's not a fact. Right? So it could be a fact, but it's just an opinion. For the speaker, it is just an opinion. So try and use statements starting with I, no, we think, we believe. All these are nice words to use, no judgment words. Like good leaders don't, if you could have done it like this. These are big words that we would use when we are probably doing some other, evaluation in some other part of the world. Maybe doing a review meeting with your subordinates. But not in a Toastmasters club, because here you are being very specific. You are giving your opinion. As simple as that. It's not what the company thinks. No, it's not. It's not a evaluation. So you got to remember, it's not a feedback session not a, what do you call that? Review session that's happening in your company. Yeah? So that's very important. And no exaggerated words. I think Dr. Ritu did say never, somewhere she said, let me tell you where she said that never. Right at the end. We never use something while we conclude our speech. This is something we don't use. And you are speaking on your own behalf. It's yours. You're taking the ownership of that evaluation. So don't speak on behalf of others. Describe your relations, your reactions. I was impressed. I felt. I did. I want you to do this. This is what we are doing. And if there is a point, like I did now, I repeated what I said to you. You don't have to repeat that. You got the message that you're not supposed to do what you did. I didn't have to repeat that again, and that's what I've done. So that's something that you can avoid. You don't have to find pick and choose those faults and make it more than required. Once is okay, twice is okay. You cannot just keep repeating the same problems over and over again. And always conclude with a constructive, positive note so that the speaker goes back feeling that, okay, I did a good job. Irrespective of what you want to tell the speaker, do it after the meeting. Not during the meeting, not during the evaluation, if there are more than 2 or 3 points. Okay, now following up. Why do you need a follow-up actually after the meeting? Because there are some times when you say certain things, the Toastmaster, the speaker might not have liked what you said. The speaker might want to come and ask you, why did you say this when I did this statement? Why did you say this? I could have done better. So you always have that. This is a family. This is a club where we are wanting the speaker to improve. So it is important that you follow up with the speaker and find out if you think that you did justice to the speech. Because you have to remember, you spent only 5 minutes there listening to a speech. He or she has spent hours together, days together to prepare that speech. So it is our responsibility as evaluators to give it to the speaker at least that opportunity to be able to give them a proper feedback in terms of what we felt about their speech. And that is one reason why, if you see, you all don't have that, you are giving feedbacks, of course you are doing it online, and that is one reason why everybody is asked to give feedback to the speakers. It's not because that you're super intelligent or you know everything or you're an authority on that. It's your opinion. So everyone's giving an opinion. So when the speaker sees all those opinions, okay, maybe I can take what I think is important for me. And that is the bottom line of the entire evaluation session. Once you have completed an evaluation, it's also good to find out from others, and I think it happens in the club meeting because the general evaluator would have evaluated the evaluators. So it's good to understand what are the things that you could have done better and how can you actually improve as an evaluator. Just go through this evaluating a contest. For the new Toastmasters, you have a 5 to 7 minute speech that is given. It's a single speaker who will deliver the same speech. Everyone listens to the same. Evaluation is done on just that one. You get 5 minutes to prepare there. And like I said, you have only one goal in your mind. How do I win this contest? You don't care what happens to the speaker. Whatever you want to say about the speaker, you can say it doesn't matter because the speaker is not going to even take you seriously. End of the day, even the speaker is happy, he or she has done a job, gone back and sat, and then it's up to you to win that contest. So it's up to you to decide how you want to win that contest. So it's very simple. There is an evaluation guide. There's a ballot which clearly tells you on what points you will be judged. So that's what you would do. In the contest, since you're going to have a contest very soon, I think in another month's time you're going to have a contest. Try and stand out by personalizing feedback. And I like the way Ritu did it today, bringing a quote right at the beginning of the speech, then using another quote to tie the content of a speech. That's a nice way to do it. And that's something that's very impressive. The moment the listeners listen, the evaluator, the judges are marking in that content, that is where they will know what is it that you said about the content of the speech. And that is how you're not repeating what she said, but you've nicely camouflaged that in a quote. So that's the nice way of doing it. So that's how you actually get more points. Try and use humor. It's not very common. It's not easy for a lot of people to bring in humor into their evaluations. Try and do that. And again, in the evaluation, it's content and delivery. Very, very important. The delivery is also important. So as an evaluator, it is just like another speech. There are 15, I think, marks for the delivery. So how you stand on the stage, whether you're standing in one corner, whether you're reading from your paper, it's very, very critical. So that also you got to remember is like any other speech. So you're standing right at the center of the stage, moving from one into the other, using your hand gestures, using your body, that is critical as well. And that is, if you look at the judging sheet, that is right at the bottom. Yeah, the grammar and the grammar is, I can't remember that now. But at the end you will see. So typically judges would mark that right at the beginning, because that's one of the easiest things to do. Then they don't have to think too much about whether the evaluator is really using the stage well or not. And very easy thing to do is practice evaluations regularly, watch winning evaluations. There's lots and lots of videos on YouTube. You can always go and see the winning evaluations, and you realize why some of them really go out and win. You look at Hashim Halim when he comes and does a evaluation. He comes up with amazing things. Even the speaker probably sometimes wondering, did I actually say this? Where did I come? Where did this come from? So that is how an evaluation is to be done. This is something that for me. It's just a comparison between what you have in a regular state. You know the speaker, you know the objectives. Here it's just a test speech. You don't know what the objectives. So one other thing is, most of us believe that in a contest there is no objective. Actually, the speaker has an objective. He's coming there. He's delivering maybe an inspirational speech. Maybe he's delivering an emotional speech. There is an objective, so you got to remember that. And if you are able to identify what was that objective, that is something that will add value to your evaluation. If you look at because you don't know what the speaker is going to be talking about, you're going to find out what was the objective of that speaker only when you listen to that speaker. So that is the bonus point that you get for listening attentively for that 5 minutes when you get to mark those to prepare your evaluation. So that is something that you got to be very mindful of as well. Again, your opinions are not directed tailored to growth. So this is very, very specific. Your opinions are just for the growth of the member. There it is just being very specific. You're trying to, trying to make it a little positive, trying to make it a little more motivational, so that the speaker feels well and so that the judges are impressed. Ideally, you're not impressing the speaker. You're not trying to impress the speaker there at all. You're not trying to give anything for the speaker. Your feedback there is for the judges who are marking you. So all your attention is focused on the judges there. And of course, in a club meeting, you can have a post-meeting discussion. In the contest, the speaker could have disappeared even before you finished the contest. So they wouldn't even have known that you're there. Alright, so that's about it. There was one thing that I wanted to again highlight. There were a couple of points that I've tried to keep it as short as possible. How much time have I taken?
No, 25. You have
25,
5 and then the question answers.
No, we'll cut it short. Now, the only thing I wanted again is, see, when you're doing an evaluation, you do not have to ask the speaker to repeat the speech. If you want the speaker to repeat the speech and if you felt that it will help the speaker to get better, do it once the evaluation is over. Personally, go and talk to the speaker and say, can you try and do this once again? Maybe not in our club, try and do it in another club. So this is something that we need to do, because like I said, it's your opinion. You cannot force the speaker to do certain things that may not be required for the speaker, because everyone has put in a lot of effort to come and try and do that speech. So that is something that we can try and avoid. We used to do this in the past. I mean, I've heard lots of speakers, evaluators who have come and told speakers, oh, this is horrible, you need to repeat this speech all over again. It's not required. We don't have the authority. They are not authorized to tell anyone to repeat the speech. It's upon the speaker to decide, okay, maybe I did not like what I did today. Maybe I want to repeat the speech to get better. That's the whole idea behind this. So try and avoid asking the speaker to repeat the speech again. Yes, timing is very, very important. And I think you had lots of opportunities to probably prolong your speech for more than 5 minutes. But it happens. So we're all learning, we're here to learn, and we're here to only get better. It's not the end of the world. It's not the it's not the finale here. It's not like saying that, okay, here it is, I'm going to be the world champion of public speaking. It's not that. So it's fine. So just about that. Yeah.